Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing well. My name is Aria. I am a student of English. This is my story. I want to tell you about my life in London. I want to tell you about my fantastic teacher. Moving to a new country and learning a new language was a big challenge for me. Everything felt unfamiliar, the people, the culture, even the way they spoke. At first, I felt shy and unsure of myself. I often wondered if I would ever be able to speak English with confidence or express my thoughts clearly. But as time passed, I began to find small moments of courage. I started noticing things around me, learning new words, and slowly becoming more comfortable. The turning point came when I met someone who truly believed in me. My teacher. She didn't just teach grammar or vocabulary. She made me feel seen, heard, and capable. That's why I want to share this journey with you. Maybe you're also learning English. Maybe you felt the same fear or hesitation. I hope my story shows you that progress is possible and that the right teacher can make all the difference. Part 1. My life in London. I still remember the day I landed in London. The weather was cold and gray, and the air smelled different. Everything looked new, and I felt like a tiny dot in a giant world. People moved quickly, taxis passed by, and the city felt alive, but I felt like an outsider. I stood at the airport holding my small suitcase and wondered what this new life would bring. Even simple things felt confusing. I had trouble finding the right bus. I didn't know how to ask for help. When someone spoke to me in fast English, I froze. I smiled politely, nodded, and pretended I understood, but I didn't. My heart beat fast whenever I had to speak, afraid I'd say something wrong or sound silly. The first night in my small rented room was the hardest. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked out the window. I missed my family. I missed my home, my language, my comfort zone. Everything here felt cold and distant. For the first time, I felt truly alone. I even thought, was this a mistake? But deep inside, something whispered, you came here to grow. I held on to that thought. I told myself this is just the beginning, the first page of a new chapter. And maybe, just maybe, I would be able to turn this fear into strength. Since I was too shy to speak much, I became an observer. I started paying attention to everything around me. On the bus, I listened to how people greeted each other. In stores, I watched how they asked for things politely. I noticed words like please, thank you, and sorry were used a lot, and they mattered. I carried a small notebook with me everywhere. I would write down words I heard even if I didn't know how to spell them. At home, I'd search for their meanings, practice saying them aloud, and repeat them while walking or cooking. That notebook became my best friend. I also watched TV shows with subtitles. At first, I couldn't follow the story, but I focused on how they said simple phrases. Shows like cooking programs or reality shows helped the most because the language was clear and natural. I even mimicked their tone and expressions. It felt like I was building my English brick by brick. I didn't have a classroom, but London itself had become my school. Every corner, every street sign, every small talk was teaching me if I was willing to pay attention. One day, something amazing happened. I went into a coffee shop and managed to order my drink in English without any fear. The lady at the counter smiled, and I smiled back. It was a small moment, but to me it felt like a victory. That one conversation gave me more confidence than any book ever had. After that, I started taking small risks. I asked for help at the train station. I introduced myself at the local library. I joined a free English-speaking group that met every Saturday in the park. It was full of people like me, learners, strugglers, and dreamers. We all made mistakes, but we laughed through them. Every little step felt like climbing a staircase. Some days were hard, but I reminded myself, look how far you've come. I no longer felt embarrassed by my accent or afraid of forgetting a word. Instead, I focused on expressing myself, even if my grammar wasn't perfect. Those small wins built something big inside me: belief. I started to believe that learning English was not just a goal, it was now part of my life. I was living the language, not just studying it. Slowly, London began to feel like home. I started enjoying the parks, the libraries, and the bookstores. I even found a small cafe where I'd go to read or write in English. The noise of the city no longer scared me. It inspired me. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was growing. I still had challenges. Sometimes I misunderstand people. Sometimes I had to ask them to repeat what they said. But now, I didn't feel ashamed. I reminded myself, every learner makes mistakes. Even native speakers do. What matters is the courage to keep trying. I started to dream in English. I began writing small diary entries in English, too. I felt proud of myself, not because I was perfect, but because I kept showing up. I was no longer the shy girl who sat quietly at the back. I had changed, one word, one sentence at a time. Looking back, I realized London didn't just give me a place to live, it gave me a new version of myself, a stronger, braver, and more open version. And this was only the beginning. Part 2. My fantastic teacher. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when I first met Miss Catherine. I had joined a free English support class at the local community center. I didn't expect much. I thought it would be like other classes: basic grammar, some worksheets, and shy students like me sitting in silence. But from the moment she walked into the room, I knew this class would be different. Miss Catherine was warm, confident, and full of energy. She greeted every student with a big smile and made us feel welcome. She didn't just start teaching, she started listening. She asked about our names, our stories, and why we wanted to learn English. When it was my turn, I could barely speak, but she nodded patiently and waited for me to finish. That simple act gave me so much comfort. She had a way of making English feel less scary. She didn't correct us harshly or laugh when we made mistakes. Instead, she celebrated every effort. If we got something wrong, she smiled and said, "That's good, now let's make it better." Her voice was gentle, but powerful. I felt safe in her class. I felt seen. From that day on, I started looking forward to her lessons. I knew she believed in me even before I believed in myself. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I could really learn this language, not just for exams, but for myself, for my future. Ms. Catherine didn't use long, boring lectures. She used stories. She told us real-life situations and asked us to imagine being in them. For example, she would say, "You're lost in the city. How do you ask for help?" Then we would act it out. At first it felt silly, but later it became fun and useful. She brought in newspaper articles, menus, maps, and even empty medicine boxes to help us learn practical English. She said, "English is not just a subject, it's something you live with every day." And she was right. Her methods were simple, but they worked. I started recognizing words on signs, on buses, and in conversations around me. She also encouraged us to speak from the heart. Once, she asked us to talk about our favorite childhood memories in English. I was nervous, but she looked at me with such kindness. I tried. I made mistakes. I repeated words, but I spoke. And when I finished, she clapped softly and said, "That's the real you. That's the voice I want to hear more." Every class felt like therapy, not just for language, but for confidence. Ms. Catherine didn't just improve my English, she helped me find my voice. And for that, I will always be grateful. One day, Ms. Catherine gave us a surprise task. She asked us to write a short letter to ourselves in English describing how far we had come. I sat there quietly for a long time. Then I began to write. I wrote about my fears, my progress, and how proud I was of myself. When I read it out loud, I cried, and so did she. That moment changed something inside me. I realized that learning English wasn't just about words or grammar. It was about believing that I had something worth saying. Ms. Catherine helped me see that. She saw my potential before I did, and when I finally saw it too, I felt like a new person. She also gave personal feedback to each of us. She once told me, "Aria, your voice is gentle, but it carries weight. Don't be afraid to speak." That one sentence stayed in my heart. I wrote it in my notebook and read it every morning before class. It reminded me that even quiet voices matter. Because of her, I started taking risks, speaking in public, volunteering to lead group work, even helping new students feel comfortable. I was no longer hiding behind silence. I had something to share, and I wasn't afraid to share it anymore. Miss Catherine was more than a teacher, she was a light. In a city that often felt cold and rushed, she created a space full of warmth and encouragement. We were from different countries, backgrounds, and cultures, but she made us feel like one family. Her classroom was a home for learners. Even outside of class, she supported us. She once helped me prepare for a job interview by practicing common questions. She stayed after class just to help me feel ready. And when I got the job, she hugged me and said, "I told you, you can do it." That moment meant everything to me. She never asked for praise. She didn't need attention. She simply loved teaching, and we could all feel it. She believed that when you lift someone with kindness, they rise higher than they ever thought possible. And that's exactly what she did for me. To this day, whenever I speak English with confidence, I remember her voice, her smile, and her belief in me. Ms. Catherine didn't just teach me English. She gave me the courage to step into the world with confidence and pride, and for the rest of my life, I will carry that gift with me. Part 3. My Learning Secret. After spending months trying different learning methods, I realized something very important. Not everything works for everyone. Some people learn from grammar books, some from apps. But for me, learning didn't begin until I found my own secret. And that secret was learning through real life. I stopped focusing on perfect grammar and started focusing on real situations. I learned how to ask questions in a shop. I practiced how to introduce myself politely. I listened carefully to how native speakers ordered coffee or said goodbye. I watched, I listened, and I repeated those things to myself later. I made learning part of my daily routine. I would speak to myself while washing dishes. I would describe my day in English before sleeping. I would pretend to have conversations while walking alone. Slowly, English became a part of my thinking, not just something I studied for an hour a day. This method didn't feel like studying. It felt natural. I wasn't memorizing long word lists anymore. I was simply living in English. That was my secret, and once I discovered it, everything began to change. One thing my teacher told me was, don't be afraid to repeat. At first, I didn't understand. I thought I needed to always learn something new, but she was right. Repetition helped me feel more confident and clear in my speaking. I picked 10 simple sentences and practiced them every day. I spoke to them in front of the mirror, on the bus, or while cooking. Sentences like, "How are you?" or "Can you help me?" or "I'm looking for a job." Over time, they became a natural part of me. I also repeated stories. I'd listen to the same short video 3 or 4 times a week. Each time, I understood a little more. Then I'd pause, repeat the sentences aloud, and copy the speaker's voice and style. This shadowing technique worked like magic. The more I repeated, the more confident I became. Repetition is not boring. It's the key that opens the door to fluency. It gave me power over my fear, and that made all the difference. My biggest challenge was not vocabulary. It was fear. I knew many words, but I was scared to speak. I thought people would laugh at me or correct me, but one day I decided I will speak, even if I make mistakes. That decision changed everything. I started small. I practiced speaking in front of a mirror. I recorded myself reading short paragraphs. I listened to my voice, corrected it, and tried again. At first, it felt strange, but then it started to feel like progress. Then I began talking to people. Simple conversations, at the market, in the library, or with neighbors. Sometimes I struggled. Sometimes I froze. But each time I reminded myself, you are learning. You are brave. That gave me the courage to try again. Soon, I realized something beautiful. People were not judging me. Most of them were kind and patient. They smiled, they helped, and they appreciated my effort. That gave me even more confidence. And slowly, the fear started to fade away. My final secret is simple. I put my heart into learning. I didn't just study English to pass a test. I studied it to tell my story. I learned to connect with people, to understand others, and to express my thoughts clearly and kindly. Every word I learned had a purpose. Every sentence I practiced had emotion. I wrote letters to myself. I described memories in English. I listened to stories that made me cry, and I told stories that made others smile. I wasn't just learning a language, I was building a new part of myself. English helped me grow in more ways than I expected. It gave me new dreams, new friends, and a new voice. I began to feel proud, not because I spoke perfectly, but because I spoke with honesty and courage. And that is my secret. Learn with your heart. Practice with love. Speak without fear. And never stop believing that your voice in any language matters. Part 4. How English Changed My Life. Before learning English, I was always quiet in groups. Even in my own language, I used to doubt myself. I avoided eye contact, I didn't share my opinions, and I often stayed in the background. I believed that my voice didn't matter. But learning English changed that. Slowly, I started to believe in my thoughts, my ideas, and my worth. Every sentence I spoke in English felt like a small act of courage. And the more I practiced, the more I grew, not just in language, but in confidence. Now I can express myself in 2 languages. That's something I never thought possible. I can give my opinion, I can ask questions, I can even tell my story like I'm doing right now. And it feels powerful. I'm no longer afraid of speaking in any language. That's the beauty of learning English. It didn't just help me understand others, it helped me understand myself. It gave me a voice I didn't know I had. Learning English also opened doors I never imagined. Before, I struggled to fill out forms, apply for jobs, or even understand news on TV. Everything felt out of reach. But as my English improved, so did my world. I was able to get a part-time job at a bookstore, my first real job in London. It wasn't just about money. It gave me pride. I could speak to customers, answer questions, and even recommend books. It was a small step, but it changed everything. Later, I joined an online course in English, something I never thought I'd be able to do. I met people from around the world, and we studied together. We shared ideas and worked on projects, all in English. That experience made me feel truly international. Now I dream of more. I want to continue learning, maybe start teaching one day, or create something that helps other learners. English gave me choices. It gave me freedom. Before, I felt alone in a big city. But learning English helped me make real connections. I started talking to people, classmates, neighbors, co-workers, and slowly, they became friends. We shared stories, jokes, and even meals. I began to understand more than just language. I began to understand cultures, emotions, and lives different from mine. English became the bridge that connected us. One of my closest friends now is from a different country. We met during an English speaking group. At first, we just practiced phrases together. But over time, we shared personal stories, dreams, and struggles. That friendship means everything to me. Without English, I never would have met her. I never would have opened up. I never would have felt so connected to the world. And that is something I will always be thankful for. When I look back at who I was before this journey, I see someone quiet, scared, and unsure. And when I look at myself now, I see someone stronger, someone still learning, but proud of how far she's come. English didn't change my personality, it revealed it. It helped me find courage, strength, and passion that was always inside me. I just needed the right language to express it. Now, when I speak in English, I don't feel small. I feel powerful. I feel like someone who belongs in London, in conversations, and in life. That feeling is priceless, and this is only the beginning. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I'm ready for it, and I'll face it, one English word at a time. Part 5. The day. Everything changed. It started like any other day. I woke up early, had my tea, packed my books, and took the bus to college. The sky was gray and the streets were quiet. I didn't expect anything special to happen. It was just another normal Tuesday in London, but inside I was nervous. That day we had a speaking presentation in class. Each student had to stand in front of everyone and talk for 2 minutes. I had prepared my topic the night before, but I still felt like my heart would explode. I kept repeating my sentences quietly on the bus. My hands were cold, and I avoided eye contact with everyone. I wanted to disappear. What if I forget everything? I kept asking myself. Still, I walked into class trying to act calm. I smiled at my teacher. She smiled back and gave me a little nod, the kind of nod that says, "You can do this." I held on to that. My name was called. My legs were shaking as I stood up. I took a deep breath and walked to the front of the class. I could feel every eye looking at me. I held my paper, but my hands were trembling too much to read. For a moment, I froze. But then I remembered something my teacher once said. Just speak from your heart. Mistakes don't matter what your message does. So I looked up and started speaking. I talked about why I wanted to learn English. I shared my journey from my first day in London to that very moment. I made a few mistakes, but I didn't stop. I saw a few students nodding. I even saw someone smile. When I finished, there was a pause and then applause. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. My teacher clapped too. That small clap felt like 1,000 words of encouragement. After class, something had shifted inside me. I felt light, like a burden had been lifted. It wasn't just about the presentation. It was about proving to myself that I could do it. I had faced my fear and survived. Some classmates came to me after class and said, "Well done," or "Your story was touching." That meant more to me than they will ever know. Their words felt like warmth on a cold day. I walked home that day feeling proud. For the first time in a long time, I didn't doubt myself. I didn't criticize my accent or grammar. I just allowed myself to feel proud. And when I got home, I looked in the mirror and said, "You did it." It sounds small, but for someone like me, it was everything. That day changed something deep inside me. It was the day I stopped hiding and started participating. I started raising my hand more often. I joined conversations, even when I wasn't sure of the right words. My teacher noticed the change, too. She told me, "You're starting to shine." I smiled, but inside, I wanted to cry. Because for the first time, I believed it. That moment, that ordinary Tuesday became a turning point in my journey. It reminded me that growth comes quietly. It comes on the days we don't expect anything. It comes when we say yes to fear and do it anyway. From that day on, I wasn't just learning English. I was becoming someone new, someone braver, louder, and more alive. Part 6. My message for you. When I first began learning English, I felt like I was walking in the dark. Every sentence felt like a mountain. I couldn't speak well, I couldn't understand everything, and I was always afraid of being judged. But step by step, I moved forward. I made mistakes, but I also made progress. If you're watching this and feel like you're behind, please remember everyone starts somewhere. No one begins with perfect grammar or a perfect accent. We all begin with fear, with broken sentences, and with a hope to improve. There is no shame in starting slow. In fact, there is great beauty in starting from zero and rising. Every little word you learn is a victory. Every sentence you speak is a step forward. Even when you feel stuck, you are still growing. So don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. If you've learned even one new word today, you're already moving forward. I used to be afraid of speaking in class. I thought people would laugh if I made a mistake. And yes, sometimes they did. But I kept speaking. I kept trying. And something amazing happened. My mistakes started teaching me more than my lessons ever could. Mistakes are not the end of your journey. They are part of it. They are the signs that you are trying, that you are brave enough to speak, even when you're unsure. That's not a weakness, that's strength. Some of my best progress came from moments when I failed. I said something wrong, and my teacher gently corrected me. That correction stayed in my mind far longer than anything I memorized from a book. So I want to tell you, don't be afraid of getting it wrong. Be afraid of never trying. Because the only way to become fluent is to keep speaking, keep listening, and keep learning without fear. Every learner is different. Some people love grammar. Others learn by listening. Some like to watch English movies. Others enjoy writing in journals. There is no one right way. The right way is the one that works for you. I found that stories helped me the most. When I read or listen to stories, I felt connected. I wasn't just learning language. I was learning emotions, ideas, and culture. That helped me remember new words and expressions naturally. So find your path. Maybe you like podcasts, maybe short videos, or maybe talking to yourself in front of a mirror. Whatever works, do more of that. Make learning personal and enjoyable. Don't let anyone tell you that you're doing it wrong. If you're learning, you're doing it right. The goal is not perfection, the goal is progress. You will have bad days. Days when the words won't come. Days when you'll feel like you're going backward. That's normal. But please, don't stop. Even if you take a break, come back. Keep going. Your journey is worth it. There were many times I wanted to give up. I thought, maybe English is not for me. But I kept going slowly, quietly, and today, I am speaking to you like this. Not perfectly, but with confidence. And that matters more than anything. Learning a new language is like planting a tree. At first, it's just a seed. You water it. You wait. Nothing happens. But slowly, roots grow underground. Then one day, a small leaf appears, and that's when you realize it was growing all along. So keep planting, keep watering, and keep believing. Because one day, you will look back and see how far you've come, and you'll be proud that you never gave up. Thank you for listening to my story. It means a lot to me that you stayed till the end. I never thought I would be brave enough to share all of this. But today, I did. And maybe, somewhere in the world, someone needed to hear it. If you are learning English, I want you to believe in yourself, the same way my teacher believed in me. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep trying. Every word you say is a step forward. Every mistake is a lesson. And every little effort counts. You are not alone in this journey. There are many of us walking the same path, step by step, day by day. And together we are growing stronger, braver, and more confident. So keep going. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And one day you'll inspire someone too, just by being yourself.